Welcome back to another episode of Beer Talk. I'm your host, Malik Stark, and today we'll be sitting down with David Kozlowski from GearHouse Brewing. Before we get started, I would like to give a special thanks to the PLCB for making this show possible. And without further ado, David.
Good morning, Malik.
How are you, my friend?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us today. And just want to pick your brain about brewing.
By all means.
So I ask this question to everyone and I get almost the same answer. How did you get into brewing?
Mine will be a little different story.
Okay.
I served in the military, and when I was deployed to Iraq, I came home. My degree from college is actually in criminal justice, so I fully expected I was going to be working for the federal government in some capacity, having a veteran as well. That did not go as planned, so I tripped and fell into construction briefly, and then from there, I actually applied to work at a winery in Loudoun County, Virginia. And when I showed up for a scheduled interview, the only person I could find was the winemaker himself, who basically told me to get off the property. Then he called me later and told me that he had had a really bad morning. He had just lost his assistant winemaker, and would I be interested in making wine instead of pouring wine at the counter on the weekends? So I landed in the wine world. I spent 3 years under him. We did about 14 to 17,000 cases of wine a year. We had a 400-acre property we were working. It was about 100 acres under vine when I left. And I left because another brewery had made a large move from, we'll say, the west side of the U.S., not exactly the West Coast. And then they moved into Maryland. So wink, wink, nod, nod. I spent another almost 5 years with them. I did have to leave suddenly for some family emergency things. When I came back, my job, unfortunately, was not there anymore. But my wife, however, had petitioned another brewery to be interested in hiring me. And so we made our slow move into Pennsylvania at that point. And I spent another 3 years with them. And then we started the ball rolling on opening GearHouse.
Oh, that's awesome. I assume that you were from this area, or were you from down in Virginia?
No, further south, actually. I mostly grew up down in South Carolina. My wife and I met in Morgantown, West Virginia University. She actually graduated from there. I had to transfer back down to the University of South Carolina to finish my degree because West Virginia being the party school it was, I was not studying the way I should have been. But I was actually born in California, so I've kind of lived up over. My father was a veteran too, and my brothers and I are all veterans as well.
Oh, nice. So from wine making to brewing, that's different. I'm like, is that an easy transition?
Actually, it was. I felt like I was getting a grasp on everything that we were handling at the winery. We had our own bottling line on site, so I was constantly doing maintenance and running that when we were ready, and then all the barrel work, helping with the vineyard work and vineyard management work, and then also just moving wine around tank to tank or purging things, getting things prepped and ready for packaging. But the interesting key to that is my wife, for my birthday that year, had just bought me my very first homebrew kit. And so I had literally just started dabbling in homebrewing when I started making all these friends that were working for this brewery that just moved to town, and we were living in Frederick at the time. So I was able to bring some of that as part of my interview. It was not super well received, but it wasn't terrible for my first try. And, I haven't really looked back since. I enjoy the science and the math and a little bit of the art that comes along with the brewing world.
Yeah, I think you would have to, to go and do both of those. Anything that, I won't say shocked you, but what's the toughest thing about that? Like, if you're talking to someone who is thinking about getting into winemaking or brewing, for that much.
Cleanliness is always key. I can never, ever not enunciate that enough to somebody who's interested in jumping into this realm. Cleanliness is most important, especially when we come to beer, because we're talking much lower alcohol content, but that does provide a little bit of a safety buffer. And then obviously oxygen is our next biggest enemy in the brewing world. So understanding what it means to make sure that all of our kegs and our vessels and everything have been purged free of oxygen before any drop of beer touches anything to ensure that longevity and shelf stability is also key.
And
And
did
then
you? Oh, sorry.
understanding recipes and chemicals and cleaning processes and all the other standard operating procedures that are around beer and brewing.
Okay. Yeah, I just started not brewing, but like training in the brewery to brew on my own over at Zero Day. So yeah, a lot of cellar work, cleaning. Yeah, it's fun.
Fun, but it's constant and it's work for sure.
Yeah, it is. Let's talk more about GearHouse. So how did that become a thing? Was it you all wanted to do this, or were you
Um,
asked? Like,
the six of us that are the founding members of GearHouse, we kind of met originally over bikes and beer and food for the most part. We were introduced to one other couple through the first couple. They had known each other for some time. They were all local here to Chambersburg, mostly grew up either nearby or their families are nearby. So that they had that in common already, but they were not otherwise like generally friends. But we got to know them all, and then slowly just things started snowballing, one thing after another. And then we have a business plan, and then we're looking at a building, and then we're buying equipment, and then I'm turning in my notice to my former job. And 9 months later, here we are.
and when did you all open down there?
We officially opened December 16th, 2016.
Okay, so yeah, that's
Yeah, we're
going to be 10
on
years
8 here. So
there. Yeah, and that's super awesome. I see you all everywhere. I know you're in West Shore Farmers Market, where that's mainly where I drink your beer at. And then almost every festival, like the what was it, PA Flavor? You guys were there just then. I didn't get to
yeah,
stop over.
we did have some representation there. You will find some of our brands will be on at the Harrisburg Senators ball field, as well as those a little further south. The Flying Boxcars in Hagerstown have already agreed to purchase beer from us as well for their stadium too. And then we're in a lot of other bottle shops and a couple of bars around Franklin County, especially trying to focus on our area for the majority. But you can find us in a few satellite locations. We are up in Harrisburg at a couple spots. We are in York with a satellite restaurant, Archetype Pizza. So they carry one of our storage licenses and serve our beer, draft and cans there as well. And then Lancaster, you can find us. We have been on at the Barnstormers in the past. I don't know if they're ordering from us this year. But we're trying, putting our names out there.
Yeah, I mean, I see you all. So I go all over this beautiful state of PA. As far as like the beer that GearHouse has, like how much was that just all the creative process of everyone, or did you kind of like take the reins on that because of the experience?
I certainly took the reins on that. I'm the only owner that actually works on site every day. But I am running this brew house. We did upgrade. We started with a 5-barrel system originally, and now we have a 15-barrel ABS system that we swapped out in 2019, so right before COVID. And then most of the time I'm coming up with these recipes. We will brainstorm together sometimes when we feel like we need to come up with something a little different or do something a little new. Once in a while, it's even just one-off pilot batches. We just had a blood orange Kolsch that we released for the Eclipse party a couple weeks ago, and that was a huge hit. And one of the first times we've actually kicked a full keg in a couple hours.
That blood orange Kolsch, like, is that? I've had it. I've had that beer, not that one specifically, but that type of beer. That blood orange, like.
Oh, it was great. Yeah, it was like a beer mosa in a glass.
Oh wow. Okay. So as far as because I'm not like with being in like the brewery every day of work, like I have a long way to go, but like as far as like designing recipes, like which one? I know you make all of them, but like what was the one that like kind of did it for you where you're like, oh, you can do anything?
I think to answer that question a little bit better, let me grab something here if I have them. This is probably what I am most proud of for anything And it's for a couple of reasons. First off, I'm a West Coast IPA fan through and through. Those are my preferred styles. But then also my tattoo artist came up with a label design that we named Mad Machinist. And of course, that's me on the label.
Oh, that is awesome.
8% West Coast IPA. And then my team decided they were going to have T-shirts and stickers made with the same logo on it. And so it's all over the place around Franklin County.
That is awesome. Did you design the label also?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, we helped. It was very steampunk kind of planning, but my tattoo artist is a fantastic artist, and he did the majority of it on his own. He just kind of picked my brain for what I thought I wanted.
Okay. What would you all say that the flagship of GearHouse?
So we have 4 cores actually, as of this year. So Canary in the Coal Mine actually is our first batch we brewed here on our 5-barrel system in the brewery. And I did 2 batches back to back, and we ultimately blended those together for our first run of our blonde ale. So it's an easy drink, 5% American style blonde ale, and the name was very catchy, and we've kept it alive even though we've overhauled the label and the package a little bit. With that, we have 3 others. Our Ninja Boots American IPA that was originally designed by my former brewer's assistant, Noah Martz. And that's been a fantastic beer. It is lightly modeled after the Mad Machinist double version, but we've tweaked it a little bit over the years. We have our German-style traditional Kolsch, plain Kolsch, as another one of our cores. And then a hazy IPA that has gained a lot of popularity for us in the last year now called Retreat.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of cryo hops in that. So it's juicy and hazy and delectable.
Fair enough. Yeah, like the West Coast, like hazy, it's like those are really popping off, if you will. Is that the beer for you? Like you said, that's your favorite, but like as far as like
IPAs in general, but certainly West Coast IPAs are more my favorite. I'm that bitter bite kind of guy. There are numerous versions of hazies out there that I like, and there are also a bunch that I am not generally a fan of. So not everybody does everything the same way.
Yeah, that's true. Since you've been in this for with GearHouse, almost 8 years. What's one of the what have you noticed about just brewing in the beer industry since?
Industry's taken a lot of hits over the last few years, especially through COVID. We did a lot to try and work with other small businesses and other small breweries doing collabs and can releases and trying to encourage people to swing by and pick up to-go food and grab some to-go beer, get a crowler or have a growler filled even if possible. And we had a lot of strong support here in our town. So we were trying to make sure we were doing the best to give back to others. And so we've been striving actually to continue that era since then. But it's not been easy. It's hard to see all of these other breweries across the state and the U.S. that have been getting shut down because they just can't afford to run anymore. And there's still more scary things coming down the pipe when it comes to legislation and payroll and whatnot. It certainly makes us a little nervous and wary, but we're going to do everything we can to stay alive and keep going.
Okay. Yeah. There's been a lot of places that I've been to around here don't exist anymore, and it's strange because I was just so used to going to them and stuff like.
Yeah, we were up to 7 breweries in Franklin County and almost had our own little pour trail, and we've already lost 2 since. So.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, as far as I don't get to come out to Chambersburg that much. Like, how is I heard you talk about making sure that you give back and that kind of stuff. How is the community aspect of people that come into GearHouse? Is it?
We are greatly received, I think, within town. We have a strong community allegiance to the brewery and our kitchen and our staff here. So, we're open 5 days a week, Wednesday through Sunday. We're one of the few restaurants in town that offer an actual brunch on Sundays as a very special menu and distinctly only on Sundays. And then, we're open lunchtime to 10 p.m., 11 to 10, Wednesday through Saturday, basically every week, with the exception of our major holidays. So our staff gets some time off too.
Mhm.
But we've worked with coffee roasters locally. We've worked with other small business vendors locally. We've worked with the Shippensburg University campus quite a bit, and I've done some on-the-side teaching and short courses for beer there. So yeah, we're trying to stay on top of things, continuing education, for lack of a better phrase, probably, and then supporting those other businesses that have supported us, so that we can try and work together. Making breakfast style stouts with coffee and oats and honey, and buying and sourcing honey from within the state. So we have an Earth to Beer release. If you've read about that at all, it's actually cross country. There's like 36 breweries involved, and we're releasing our Imperial honey wheat starting tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
And so we're working with the South Mountain Partnership and Conservation Affiliation, and they're going to be here doing a modified version of a tap talk tomorrow evening, and then we're going to start pouring that beer right off the bat.
Oh, really? And what kind of beer did you say that was? It was a honey oat stout?
No, that one's an Imperial honey wheat, and then part of it we aged in hidden still double oak bourbon barrels. It's 7%, and it drinks like a Hefeweizen, but it's a little boozy.
Okay. And you said that gets released tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yeah. So West Shore will have it before the end of the week.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just, wondering, that might be my favorite type of beer,
Okay.
stouts. Yeah, that's cool, man. It's whenever people come into GearHouse, like what's the vibe, if you will? Like what's the feeling that people can expect to come?
So we have a really cool building. Our building is actually part of the original Cumberland Valley Railroad system. And our building was the shipping and receiving warehouse that was up against the train tracks when they ran from the late 1800s until about 1978, 79, somewhere in there. Very briefly, it had been a beer distributor and then a pool hall, and then it sat empty for a while, and then it was added onto and turned into an automotive paint and body shop. And then ultimately, the automotive paint and body shop decided to build a new building next door and move into that. And it sat empty again for a little while longer before we discovered that it was available for purchase as well as renovation. Our business model is a little different than a lot of people might be accustomed to. We don't do sit-down table style service. We are trying to encourage our community to engage with each other. So we have everybody order everything at the counter. All your food will be presented to you at your table. We will give you a table number so we can find you easily. We have a lot of floor space. We do live music every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Our hop yard actually opens next Thursday, May 2nd, and all of our music, with the exception of inclement weather, all of our music will be migrating to outside during the warm summer months. And then we have added on to our space outside as well. We've installed we'll call it a garden shed, but we call it a beer shed. And then also during COVID, we managed to score a wood-fired pizza trailer. And so we've been putting that to work as well. And that's available during music sessions, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, once the hop yard's open.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot going on.
Kitchen, everything is made super fresh, sourced super local. We only buy things mass-produced if absolutely necessary. But we have been working with our local colleges and their agricultural departments and farming communities. We work with a couple of local butchers and a couple other dairies. We work on Trickling Springs ice cream for our milkshakes and things like that. And then we offer some of the other lighter fare for those who are not beer drinkers. We as manufacturers have the ability to have a full bar as long as everything's made in PA. So we have the Escape Goat products. We have the Athletic beer products. We do cider from Big Hill, and once in a while we'll rotate that around and do some other cideries as well. We've done some tastings on site and invited other manufacturers to come bring in and showcase their products on behalf of themselves for our customers.
Oh, that's neat, man. That's a lot. Like you all have a lot going on down there.
A lot of people don't realize how much 13,000 square feet looks like.
Yeah, you can do a lot with that. I don't know what 13,000 feet looks like, but whatever. All right, I got a few more questions. If you had to make like the perfect beer, like what would it be? How would it taste? Like,
I may have made it already, but we weren't.
Okay, that is a great answer. That is a fantastic.
Another one of my IPAs is called The Other Unknown. It is
Okay.
a 10% triple hazy IPA. It's all New Zealand hops, coastal haze yeast, and even though it's 10%, it drinks like 5% juice.
Okay.
So it is amazing, and it will also floor you if you're not careful.
Okay. Now I haven't had that, but that sounds a very, very, very similar to Hop Slam. If you've ever had that.
I have seen Hop Slam, yes.
Yeah, and that has floored me a few times.
Yeah, that one's up there too.
Yeah, I think that's 10-5. Okay. Yeah. Well, I think this will about we'll wrap it up. Thanks again for this, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you all for listening and watching. Look out for new episodes every other Thursday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get podcasts, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at cheers_PA. And cheers, David. Thanks.
Cheers, Malik. Thank you.